It is a first down. Pirates.
You can paint this one purple. What an incredible win by the ECU Pirates.
Welcome into Blackbeard's Alley, a Pirate football podcast. We appreciate everyone tuning in. This is our FAU recap. East Carolina finishes the regular season at 8-4, the best regular season for ECU since 2014, as the Pirates went to Boca Raton, pummeled the FAU Owls 42-3. That was the score at halftime, and a very uneventful second half. The Pirates forced 5 turnovers, really did whatever they wanted to offensively. We'll dive into that, as well as what lies ahead in the to-be-determined bowl matchup. Several possibilities on the table, but without any further ado, let's welcome in Jason Tyndall. Jason, how are you?
I'm doing good, Bubba. What a great game Saturday. Complete domination from the beginning of the game to the end. Obviously, I would like to see them put one more score on that long drive they had in the third quarter on the board, but you couldn't ask for a better, more physical approach from our team, bouncing back from the tough sledding they had at UTSA.
Yeah, after what took place in San Antonio, the Pirates trailing at halftime 34-3, and it was the exact opposite in this one. Pirates, as I mentioned in the lead-in, winning 42-3, but that was the score at halftime, and ECU did whatever it wanted in the first half. And what I loved going into this game, I really felt like in the trenches that we could have our way if we played the way we could play, and that was exactly what happened. Typically, our drives are 2 or 3 minutes, but at times this year we've been able to produce those 4 to 5, 6 minute drives, and we had at least 2 or 3 of those in this one. And I think we ended up running the ball something like 55, 56 times and threw it 30.
One of the things I was most impressed about Saturday was, in my notes too, was just watching the game on TV. Immediately on the first drive, you could see how chippy our offensive linemen were and how they were getting to the second level and really just pushing the pile, and also just wrecking havoc on the second level of the defensive linebackers and the down safeties. So I knew at that point that this had a chance to get ugly really quick, because that's the first time that, a lot of games we go to in person, Bubba, it's harder to tell, but on TV, it's the first time I've seen our offensive line just going after people with that type of tenacity. And it just made me feel good, because there's so many years watching bad football with ECU that we'd watch see other teams with their offensive linemen getting downfield and just knocking people off of tackles or knocking people around. And that's what we did on Saturday from, like I said, from word go to the end of the game.
Yeah, we really lost that battle against the Roadrunners, UTSA, piling up well over 400 yards of offense, including over 200 yards on the ground. And you could tell that was a point of emphasis in practice. And we definitely were a team on a mission on Saturday afternoon in Boca. And not to dwell on this too much, but and I understand it's Thanksgiving weekend and they're a 4-7 team, but I think they announced the attendance, Jason, and 14,000. I don't know if there were 1,400 there.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're at a preseason high school jamboree, and it was the 2 worst teams that kick off the morning, and there's, the mom and dad are there, and there's nobody else there from the school or anything. It was just kind of an empty stadium, and in the past, we probably wouldn't handle that well, but it seems like we've got a culture right now about bringing the juice, and we definitely did on Saturday. And I called that a Houston game, not Mike Houston. It reminded me of the opposite. We were the University of Houston and what they did to us on Holton Ahlers, that Crew's senior day, how they came into Dowdy Fickle and just totally dominated us and blasted us. We were the Houston this time, ECU was, and blasting somebody on their last game of the year at home and their senior day. So it just felt good to be on the other side of the stick on this one.
Yep. This is the third time now this season that the Pirates have held an opponent without a touchdown. I mean, you held Campbell to 3 points, shut out Coastal, and now FAU to 3 points. So pretty impressive. I was trying to think the last time we had done that.
It's been a while. And I'm glad you called that out because I hadn't even gone back and thought about that from those two previous games. I remember Coastal being the shutout, but yeah, I mean, Campbell obviously a lower division school, but still it's college football. What was one of the biggest question marks we all had coming into the season was the defense. And gosh knows, I couldn't be more, proud of that group and that unit and that coaching staff. It's been fun to watch.
Yeah, exactly. Regardless of opponent, because like you mentioned, Campbell's, of course, FCS, and then Coastal finished 6-6, and then FAU, of course, 4-8. But we had not done that against anyone in recent memory. So still very impressive. And FAU did threaten a few times, but the Pirate defense came up big time and again in the red zone with turnovers, forcing 5 in the game. Caden Veltkamp threw 3 picks, and I think he finished the season with 18 of them.
Yeah, that was one of the things when we had their play-by-play guy on last week. We both kind of pointed out the number of interceptions, and we obviously got him off of his rhythm and did a really good job of just creating those turnovers. So, I mean, it's hard to summarize the game because it's really just a butt whooping. I mean, there's no other way to put it. The only thing I would have liked to see again was repetitively is put one more score on the board, make it 50, and then start playing all the guys who are trying to get more playing time and who travel on the travel squad.
Playing in such a poor atmosphere, you could tell, just like when we went to Temple and some of the other road games, it was a point of emphasis to bring the juice, bring the energy, and we definitely did that. Got off to we really couldn't have scripted a better start, and constantly staying ahead of the chains, and not surprising to see rolling up 42 points in the first half. The third down numbers we were able to produce 12 out of 17 after having, I think, our worst game of the season, I think far and away on third down at UTSA, where we were something like 2 out of 15 or 2 out of 16 against the Roadrunners. But very quickly to run over these final numbers, you had the Pirates roll up 524 yards of offense. I think about 450 was in the first half. And like I mentioned, not a ton happened after halftime. You did have a solid drive to start the second half, but unfortunately we turned it over after dominating that first drive with maybe a 6 or 7 minute possession. And you see the time of possession for the game ended up 35-25 basically. And I think in the first half it was maybe 21-9. ECU really kept FAU's potent offense off the field.
Yeah, one of the things I enjoyed about the third quarter was they kept showing Coach Harrell on the sidelines during that drive, and we just kept running the ball, and they couldn't stop us. And that grin he had on his face was just, is delightful to see. And I was really, really concerned about us coming off with a hangover from UTSA defensively and having, if you look at what FAU's done in the back half of the season and how they've caught their rhythm and their confidence offensively, I thought we'd be in a shootout, to be honest with you. And I thought it was going to be a nail biter. But after that second, once we went up 21-0, I thought, okay, this is going to be a real banger for us as far as just knocking these guys out.
Obviously, it was a different opponent, but you think back, I guess it was Holton's senior year when we had to play South Florida at FAU Stadium. And you remember the first half we had against the Bulls that day. I think that was the game C.J. Johnson had 3 or 4 touchdown receptions.
Yeah, that was fun watching.
Right after his grandmother had passed
based
away.
On that hurricane or whatever, it came through Tampa.
Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
But
yep.
But there you see the very balanced attack. Pirates ran 86 plays, 30 passes, 258 yards, 266 on the ground, 4.8 per carry. One of the negatives was ECU did have 11 penalties for 87 yards. A lot of that was the wide margin. And then you also, we're playing so many people. It was great to see guys get snaps that haven't got many snaps this year. And so some of that was due to that lack of experience on the field in the second half. But all in all, an excellent performance. And what about the effort of Marlon Gunn, the senior, having his best game as a Pirate in his final regular season game as a Pirate, 14 carries for 130 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah. You're talking about a true Pirate there in Marlon, and I just hate it for the young man because he just seemed to just stay banged up and injured early in his career, but you could always tell he had a nice pad lean and just ran behind his pads. He talked about it in the post-game interviews about how he knew that, you only get so many more snaps in your career, and he's going to take advantage of every one of them. And daggone if he didn't go out there and just do it. And I know that they are glad that Mr. Gunn won't be playing for ECU next year if we do play FAU again next season.
Caton Hauser, perhaps a season high, 11 carries. He carried the football more than he typically does. He was asked post-game about that, if that was kind of the game plan going in. He said, no, not necessarily. It was just the way FAU was playing some of the runs, and he was getting pull reads, and he made the most of it on those 11 carries, 67 yards for Caton, a little over 6 per, and 2 touchdowns. And I love the one, I think it's the final score of the first half and the game, as it turned out, where he got pushed into the end zone by I'm trying to remember who it was, Kyle Long, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yep. And so heck of a day for Caton with those 67 yards on the ground and throwing for about 260, 20 out of 29. In going into this game, if you told us, yes, Yannick Smith, he may or may not play, but if Anthony Smith and Yannick Smith were going to produce one catch for 9 yards and you're going to win by 39 points, you'd have been pretty surprised.
Yeah, and it's just based on their coverage shell too. I think is really what happened. What they were taking away, they were steadfast in that, and we're not going to give us, the deep balls. So the stuff in the boundary. So it looked to me like it opened up everything for Connor and Desiree Riles, the tight ends for us. So smart by Caton to take what they're giving us. Shows that, he's just really becoming more and more of a seasoned veteran. But it also reminded me of the NC State bowl game last year where, he had those good pull reads and it really hurt the Wolfpack there in the first half. So it shows me that he's doing what he's been coached to do and stays within the system for the most part.
Yep, and elaborating a little bit on what you said as far as Desiree Riles and J.C. Connor, they had very good days, 7 for 87 for Desiree and that touchdown, and then J.C., 4 for 27, so 11 receptions for 114 yards, and then also Brock Spalding. How about that screen and go for the touchdown? We faked the running back screen, and he was wide open down the right sideline.
Yeah, but we talked about this in our first podcast early in this preseason that we thought Brock Spalding could have a breakout year, and he certainly has performed well, and been a pleasant surprise to us and Pirate Nation. So, there's chatter going on right now about the OC situation, but I feel like, if we can hang on the JDB, we've always got a chance to score and score big and score in different ways. And if you look at the running game, how it continues to evolve and continues to evolve, some of those guys are back next year up front. We'll have some good running backs, good young backs. And if we can run the football like we did Saturday consistently, this offense is going to be a real pain in the butt to slow down or stop.
All season long, Jason, we've talked about the play of our safeties with Riddle and Wilk, and they stepped up really big on Saturday afternoon. Teagan finally got that elusive interception. He joked about it in the post game, saying, "Hey, I've only dropped," and he was exaggerating. He threw out some random number. He said, "I've only dropped 15." So he said, "It's about time I caught one." And then Jamarly Riddle continues to have a nose for the football and making big plays as well.
Yeah, he is. We're fortunate to have Teagan back this year because of we had the injury early in the preseason to the gentleman's name, the young guy's name escapes me, but another safety that's supposed to be a contributor. So we really had three right there that we knew we could count on. And I understand why Teagan does play secondary now, and he's not a slot wide receiver because he has stone hands, man. But I think it's just his tenacity and stuff. But yeah, we're fortunate right now to have those guys back there in the secondary. And it looks like Angelo Ross also had an interception on the day.
He did. A diving pick there in the second half, and he got up and spiked the ball. And later on, he made a nice play, but taunted the FAU player. And love to see Blake Harrell get a hold of him, get his attention there. I'm sure he, and as Coach Ruff would say, loved him up later on, but he had to let him know that wasn't going to fly. Just act like you've been there before and get up and keep playing football. But something else, looking at these numbers, we talked about the way the Pirates dominated in the trenches and the way we ran the ball. How about the way we stopped the run? The last two games against Memphis and UTSA, we had allowed over 200 yards rushing. And yes, against Memphis, some of that was because of a couple really long runs, one of which went for 84 yards. But we played against the run the way we had the majority of the season. In this one, 22 carries for just 39 yards for the Owls.
Yep, that's just a good old-fashioned butt whipping up front. That's all I can say. I mean, when you hold any college football team to 39 yards on that many carries, you're playing the run really well. And again, game of confidence, game of rhythm, a game of good habits and bad habits. Let's hope this continues as we head towards our bowl game. We should find out who they are on by Sunday. I guess we'll find out who that opponent is. But if we can play the run like that, continue to play with that type of energy and enthusiasm on defense, we got a chance to beat anybody we play.
We really highlighted the creativity and the aggressiveness of Blake Harrell and his staff throughout the season. We continued to see that with short yardage and goal line packages. Ryan Roseborough, of course, the first time he touched the football was on the fake punt up at Temple, where he ran for 15 or 20 yards and introduced himself to one of Temple's secondary guys. But then in this one, after I think he had a touchdown, or maybe it's a two-point conversion reception last week against UTSA. In this one, he lined up beside Caton Hauser as the quarterback and carried it on consecutive plays, with the second one ending up in a touchdown. And that was awesome to see. You always love a big man touchdown.
Yeah, it's so much fun to see that. Like you said, it's and everybody in my house was watching the game. When he didn't get in that first time, we started quickly trying to say, okay, how much money? And I was like, I'll bet you a whole lot of money he's about to score on this one. He just rolled in there. So congrats to him. And you've hit it up nail on the head. Coach Harrell, he just seems to have a swagger about him, and the staff itself and the team, tends to gravitate towards his personality. And that's why I think he's just the right guy for ECU. We need that type of mentality. We need that type of creativity and have the guts and the intestinal fortitude to go for it sometimes and just do things a little bit different, a little bit outside the box. And we've sure done that this year. I mean, I don't know if we've faked that many kicks in the last 10 years combined. If you think about it, I mean, we just didn't never do it. It's just always just kind of status quo. He's done a really good job of spicing things up.
He really has. And the surprise onside, I guess I was trying to think the last time prior to some of the creativity with the kickoff team, that I think the last time that we perhaps saw that, I know we saw it at Marshall when we made that comeback from 3 touchdowns down. It seems like that, I don't know if it was against BYU or somebody that we had tried it again as well. But yeah, love to see that. And getting your final thoughts on the season as a whole, and we'll definitely take a deeper dive in the next week or two between now and the bowl game, or then perhaps even after the bowl game at the 2025 season. But I mentioned, Jason, in the open that 8 wins in the regular season, the most in the regular season since back in 2014. And now the Pirates have a chance to win a bowl game, win 9 games for the first time since 2013 when they went 10-3, and be just the 4th team since 2000 to win 9 games. You had the Liberty Bowl teams, the 10-3 2013 team, and then hopefully this year.
Yeah, it's been a really good year. I know we've had some, a couple of games where a play or two here or there, if it had gone our way, we might already be at the 9-win mark or 10-win mark, and it's easy to go back and second guess those things. But outside of the UTSA game, I would say that's the only turd in the punch bowl we had all year. Call it like it is. And so I'm just happy with the players. They continue to play hard, and it's always been that, hey, when are we going to ECU it up with something? And UTSA was kind of that way, but we played well on the road. We've done some things differently, and it's just been a really good season. And like you said, if we can go to a bowl game and get that 9th win, it just puts the candle on the birthday cake for this season and bring some momentum to the off season for next year.
Yeah, 18 games now under Blake Harrell. 13-5 are the Pirates, and as you mentioned, that UTSA game is the only game in which ECU has not been competitive. And by bouncing back against FAU in those 18 games, the Pirates had not lost consecutive games under Blake. And that's pretty impressive. I was curious. I was like, when was the last time that we've had a streak this long without losing consecutive games? And you had to go way back to the last few games of 2011 up to the midway point of 2014 when we were ranked in the top 25. You had something like a stretch of 33, maybe 35 games where the Pirates did not lose back-to-back games. So a very impressive run that the Pirates are currently on.
And one of the things I've noticed is all the coaching news that's come out, and Coach Summerall from Tulane, who's going to Florida, they keep talking about his record while he's at Tulane. And if you look at his record and look at Coach Harrell's pacing, I'm glad the national media hasn't noticed it and been hyping him up for a next head coach of one of these ESPN Power 4 conference teams, because he's doing the same thing, if not even a little bit better than Summerall did at Tulane, if you look at his record at Tulane. And so it's we know it's coming. We know that attention and eyeballs are going to get on us, especially if we can go out and have a really good showing during bowl season. But you got to tip your hat to the guy, and you got to tip your hat to the entire program, because we were dead in the water when he took over, and he's given us life. He's given Pirate Nation life, and something to be proud of and enthusiastic about. It's nice to be frustrated about losing a close game against a really good football team, because in the past we would just be getting our teeth kicked in at times in those scenarios.
Yeah, you bringing up John Summerall moving on from Tulane to Florida. Here in just a moment, we'll take a look at those coaching changes within the league and how, like you just mentioned, with East Carolina seemingly going to definitely hold on to Blake Carroll for the time being, and that continuity, that the Pirates will have, hopefully trickling down to the rest of the staff, OC, and then also guys like Caton Hauser and key pieces on this roster can really set up well for 2026 and beyond. But before we do that, taking a look at the scores from last weekend, you had Navy. Unfortunately, the Memphis Tigers were unable to help us out on Thursday night. I guess it was 28-17. The Middies won that. You had North Texas blowing out Temple 52-25 on Friday. Tulane did what you would expect. Kinda to Charlotte. They shut them out. Didn't necessarily score as many points as you might think. 27-0. UAB won a thriller out at Tulsa. That one surprised me a bit. With Tulsa having come off a big win the previous week at Army. But UAB 31, Tulsa 24. And then speaking of Army, they ended the streak in the Alamo Dome. They had won there a couple years ago when they were an independent. This time, obviously, a member of the American, 27-24, the 25-game conference win streak that went back to the CUSA days comes to an end, and then South Florida 52, Rice 3, ending Rice's bowl hopes.
Yeah, so that Army game surprised me.
I'm sorry, you said which game surprised you?
The Army one definitely surprised me.
Yes, I definitely thought UTSA would win. I thought Army, just based on how they've been playing, even though they had lost that game at home to Tulsa, I thought they had a chance to make it interesting based on the previous success they had there and just playing better football. But yeah, I definitely took the Roadrunners in my weekly pick'em contest, but didn't break my heart to see Army win that one. So kind of moving on now, John Sumrall from Tulane to Florida, Alex Golish from South Florida to Auburn, Ryan Silverfield from Memphis to Arkansas. The Hog fans are just loving that hire. And then of course, Eric Morris from North Texas to Oklahoma State. What are your thoughts on some of these moves with our league members?
It's hard to say, Bubba. I think it's complimentary of the American Conference itself and the football and the talent that the coaches, we do have really good coaches pretty much across the board, I would say. Some programs are having to catch back up again and things like that are normal ebbs and flows. But, I am a bit surprised that so many of them in one season are coming out of the same conference. And it seems to be a little bit of a blowback from the fans at those schools. If you look at the message boards or X or Twitter or whatever the hell you call it this week, and see their comments and things. But I think I truly believe we're going to be stuck in that same conundrum next year at this time. I feel like with what we're doing with our staff and what the kind of type of success we're having, we'll be the next shiny object down in the again, air quotes, group of 5 or 6 or whatever we are now, that the ESPN teams come try to poach their coach or their coordinators. And I think the coordinator one's already in flight right now. So I'm hoping that works out best for the Pirates.
And just a few minutes ago, Jason, you referenced obviously with the Pirates' success on offense, you're seeing John David Baker's name floated around different OC vacancies, be it South Carolina or James Franklin's new staff at Virginia Tech. Give credit to Stephen Igo and Hoist the Colors reporting that news. Any more light you can shed there? What are you hearing? What have you seen?
Well, it's obviously there's discussions taking place. I mean, there's too much smoke there to not be some fire. And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, if you look at, how do I say this politically correct? Regardless of what some of our fans blame the season on, as far as being at 4 losses as opposed to 2 or 3 or 1, we always had a chance to move the football in this system. And I really like what Coach Baker does, and I think he's matured a lot over the last 2 years, not just as a play caller, but just understand how to adapt on what the defense is, how they're configured and what they're giving us, and also how can we be creative and create, plays in space and plays vertically. The selfish side of me says I hope he stays at ECU. But it's a profession now, and the world is just so different now. The way coaches move and go, and way players move and go, that I can't fault the guy for at least having discussions with a place that he feels like would be a good spot for him to land professionally. So it stinks for us. It makes it hard to get excited about bowl games, to be honest with you, because you don't know if your coaching staff's going to be there. You don't know how many players are going to be there, and just a word win. It's not the good old days where everybody still jumped on the bus and took off and played the game, and then got ready for winter workouts.
Right. And another aspect of things, in addition to John David Baker and other staff members, you of course have Caton Hauser, guys like him, Yannick Smith, Jamarly Riddle, J.C. Connor. Those four come to mind, and there are definitely others. As far as guys that we're going to really have to make it a priority to keep as a Pirate.
Yeah, I believe we got 2 offensive linemen too. That's going to be in that boat. To me, they look like the type of offensive linemen where schools with just insane amounts of NIL are going to come after and say, look, if I can get one of these 2 guys, it just bolsters the depth or the quality of our offensive line too. So it is what it is. It's we're having to all adjust up to it from fans, and the young men are living it as players, and the coaches are living it as professionals. I do think the money and coaching, people don't realize it. Back when Lane Kiffin's dad was coaching at NC State, he might have been making $60,000, and it's just gotten out of control. I mean, what they're paying these coaches, and of course, it becomes attractive because you tell me, Bubba, you and I, somebody calls you tomorrow and says, hey, once you come teach in this school system, we're going to give you $13 million. Anybody who's listening to this says they wouldn't have conversations and discussions and really consider it, they're lying to it, because it's the way it is. It's game life-changing money. And the players are starting to get life-changing money for people their age. I just hope we can keep Caton. I hope we can keep Coach Baker. And a majority of these guys, but we're going to lose some. It's going to happen. It's going to happen to every team. So how do we replace them? And I know Coach Harrell and Coach Ware and those guys have got a plan in place, and contingency plan that people that got their eye on as well in the portal from other schools. So the portal taketh, the portal giveth, and so hopefully we can giveth more this year.
Here in just a moment, we'll wrap up this show with some brief bowl talk, some of those matchups that you've been seeing on social media and otherwise. But before we do that, let's show appreciation to our sponsor, Kevin Walker, L&K Custom Homes, 336-688-8461. KK, the former East Carolina defensive back from the early to mid 80s. He's been a custom homes builder, for about 3 decades. He's in the Piedmont Triad region, based out of Greensboro. So give him a call today if you have any questions or the desire to build yourself a custom home. But moving on, let's take a look at the Pirates Bowl opportunities. And there's obviously several that could potentially become a reality. Some of those that you're seeing projected, you've seen the Gasparilla Bowl down in Tampa at Raymond James, or whatever they call it now, against Wake Forest. Considering what happened recently with the Deeks buying their way out of their trip to Greenville, that would obviously be very appealing. You have Kansas State, East Carolina and K-State have, of course, never met. That could potentially happen in the Armed Forces Bowl out in Fort Worth at Amon G. Carter Stadium at TCU. You have maybe a matchup with a familiar foe out of the Big 12, Cincinnati in the Liberty Bowl. You could potentially face Georgia Southern in the Myrtle Beach Bowl. According to what I had heard, especially with the Pirates winning in Boca, that probably would not be the case, but we shall see. And then Fenway, you could go to Fenway and face another familiar foe that East Carolina has not played since 2004, and that's the Louisville Cardinals. So what are your thoughts on some of these possibilities? Even though it wouldn't be the easiest to get to because it's in Fort Worth, that K-State matchup would be very intriguing. But I think if I had to choose one, I'd choose Tampa because of the weather and the matchup with a P4 team like a Wake Forest or somebody else out of the ACC maybe.
Yeah, I echo what you're saying. It's still so early. I know we'll find out on Sunday or right around that time, unless something leaks out. But yeah, getting to Fort Worth is if you're able to fly, it's not a bad trip. But and getting to play a team like Kansas State would be fun because it's something different. But at the same time, playing Wake down in Tampa would be really nice too. And like you said, there's a little spice on that one as well with them buying out our game. And then it sounds like I've heard the same thing. I've heard we're pretty much out of the Myrtle Beach Bowl, but watch what'll happen is we'll circle back around. We'll wind up in the Myrtle Beach Bowl because we're both saying that. But who knows? I just don't know how it goes now because so many teams didn't qualify that people would assume have qualified for bowls this year.
Yeah,
it's moving them around a little bit. I will also say I go to Boston quite a bit, and is the Fenway Bowl, is that the one where there's something odd about the field shape? I know it's in Fenway Park, but isn't that the one that UNC Cheat played in last year?
It is. UConn beat the Tar Heels in the Fenway Bowl, and like you say, it's definitely it's awkward as far as positioning the football field, how it has to be in order to fit 120 yards within the baseball layout. So it would really be the ideal seat, in my opinion, would be the upper deck on the first base to right field line.
Yeah. I thought it was. I remember looking at it, going, "Gosh, it's kind of strange." But
yeah.
I mean, Boston. I'm from the South. I'm Southern as it can get, but downtown Boston's a pretty awesome place to visit too. I mean, there's a lot of direct flights from North Carolina there, obviously from Raleigh and Charlotte and wherever else. But wouldn't be something. It wouldn't be bad. Now I don't want to go up there and freeze my butt off either. So,
right. Yeah, definitely not ideal from a weather standpoint. That goes without saying. Late December in Boston, Massachusetts, but at the same time, from cool town, like you mentioned, a ton to do, plenty of fun for Pirate fans. But at the same time, it would be very surreal watching East Carolina play a football game at Fenway Park. It almost seemed like a dream.
Yeah, be like going back to the 30s or something. Yeah.
But
I remember watching Notre Dame play Navy at Memorial Stadium in Baltimore when I was a freshman in high school, and it was just interesting because it was in that baseball stadium. It's just kind of cool.
Yep. So, like you said, here in the next week or so, we'll find out where the Pirates will be headed, and we'll definitely have a show for you whenever that does happen, as well as who the Pirates will be playing wherever they're going. But that will do it for this edition of the show. Again, reach out to Kevin Walker with L&K Custom Homes, 336-688-8461. We appreciate everyone tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon here on Blackbeard's Alley, a Pirate football podcast. Until then, as always, go Pirates.